Hi everyone. Sorry for the quality of this video. I am by myself tonight, so I can't use my fancy dance camera. Instead, I'm going to be using a webcam, which means it's going to be hard for me to look there instead of down, but I have to remember to look there. Hi. But I really wanted to talk to you guys as soon as I could because I had the opportunity to watch the first two episodes of Gracepoint today at a LACMA screening of it, and I really wanted to talk to you guys about it. I am a huge fan of Broadchurch. I thought it was just such an amazing show. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend going to watch it. Actually, you should pause this video right now, find out where you can watch it, and go do that, and then come back and we can talk. But I will, actually, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I'm not forcing anybody to do that. I don't want to feel like you have to do that. But I'm going to try to not be spoilery, actually, for Broadchurch or for Gracepoint. So I just want to talk just like a general review of how Gracepoint was in comparison to Broadchurch and, where the differences lie without being like spoilery. And I did hear, and this is a rumor, so I don't even know if it's really true or not, that the killer is going to be different. For those of you that don't know, what Broadchurch is a British show where it was a 10 episode, 8 or 10, can't remember exactly, but it was a mini series where they were going to solve the murder of a young boy, and at the end of the series, they said who the killer was. Hey, killing. Could have learned something from that, am I right? Okay, just saying, hey, there was actually a killer, and we all now know who it is. So they decided to take that same show and move it to the U.S., and we're doing like a U.S. version of it, and it's called Gracepoint. It's produced by the same Chris Chibnall, who some of you might know, showrunner on Torchwood. I believe he was a showrunner. I know he wrote for it. He also wrote episodes of Doctor Who. So I'm a little bit of a fan. He did an amazing job with Broadchurch. It's beautifully shot, beautifully acted. I mean, Olivia Colman is in it, and she's amazing. She won the BAFTA. David Tennant's in it, amazing. The whole cast, really, just phenomenal. So I was a little bit iffy about Gracepoint because I was such a big fan of Broadchurch. As soon as I heard they were going to be making an American version of it, I was like, why? And then I talked to my mom and my dad, and my mom's like, well, it was kind of hard to understand what they were saying sometimes. It's like, all right. And apparently only about 1% of American households saw Broadchurch even when it was on BBC America. And it's a shame because it is a beautifully well done show. So I was a little nervous when they said they were going to do an American version because I was like, but, you already did a really good version, and it's not like it's not in English. So, put the subtitles on, guys. Come on. Sorry about that. I just kicked the... Basically, with Gracepoint, I decided to read the pilot script as soon as it came out, and I was doubly nervous because when I read the pilot script, it was basically Broadchurch, frame for frame. I was like, I could see this because I've already seen it. But what I'm going to say is, for the first two episodes of Gracepoint, from what I've seen, they have gone in a different direction in some of the ways. The tone's a little bit different. Now, it is interesting because David Tennant plays the same character in both. I think they changed his name, and he's American, so he's doing an American accent, which is always interesting. You know how Americans can never do Scottish accents perfect? Well, Scotsmen have a hard time with American accents, and he does a good job. It's not distracting at all, which is what I was worried about. There are moments where it slips in and out, but he does do a good job with the accent, so way to go, David. And he talked about, because, did I tell you? There was a Q&A at the screening, and David Tennant was there. What? I may have turned a little bit stalkery. Sorry. I didn't get his autograph. A bunch of people got autographs. I didn't do it. I hate being that person, so I didn't. But anyway, he did say that after filming Gracepoint, he then went on to film the second season of Broadchurch, and that was when he realized how different and how far apart the characters had gotten. And maybe in the first episode it started going the same way, but I have to say he was more serious in Gracepoint than he ever was in Broadchurch. And that's hard to believe because he's pretty serious in Broadchurch, but he's super serious in that. But okay, so then you have Olivia Colman was Ellie Miller in Broadchurch, and Anna Gunn is playing the same character in Gracepoint, and they played it very differently. Anna Gunn said she didn't watch Broadchurch. She is definitely has a little bit more anger in her, a little bit stronger maybe of a character. She lacks a little bit of Olivia's softness with the character, which we could see where that's going to go. So I think it's going to change it a lot. My big concern with the differences in who the killer is going to be actually has to do with the fact that it's so well set up in Broadchurch. I mean, all the clues are there. So if you're looking, you're like, oh, now I see. Now you know the killer is. It's like, oh, I see what I was supposed to see. And I missed it. And my concern is that some of those clues are still in Gracepoint. So if it's a different killer, what does that mean? And, you know, I mean, I'm sure, like, I should trust them and that they'll figure it all out. And the music was a little bit stronger in Gracepoint and, like, oh, really ominous at parts, and you're like, is that like a red herring? Are you trying to like confuse me, or is he a bad guy? I mean, the whole show is about everyone has guilt. Everyone's a little bit guilty, so that's kind of in it. So it's hard to tell, is that guilt because you killed a kid, or is that guilt because, you know, you cheated on your spouse or whatever? One of the really standouts for me on these first 2 episodes of Gracepoint was Michael Pena. He's playing the father of the boy. And in the first episode, he's good. But in the second episode is when he really, like, he became very different from the gentleman who played the character in Broadchurch. And he really was like, I was like, oh, you're different and you're strong. And I like Michael Pena a lot. So I'm a little bit biased because I think he's amazing. Because he is, guys. Come on. And that's going to be interesting to see. And they picked a guy to play the father, the priest, who really does often play like those really evil serial killer pedophile type roles. Like it's kind of like his niche. So I'm a little bit like, oh, I don't know, like, is he that? And I was like, yeah, I'm like, oh, so you picked a really, like, character-y, pedophile-y looking dude to play the father, the priest, what does that mean? And I'm trying to read into things, and I don't know what's going to happen. They did, you know, they're throwing blame on people early on, so you're like, oh, so it's probably not going to be that guy because we got 10 more episodes to go. They did the same thing in Broadchurch where each episode kind of focused on a single character, and you know, like once they focused on this character and they were like, oh, you're not it? Well, okay, so let's move on because we have a lot more episodes to go, so you can't figure out now. But overall, I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of it and where they go with it. It is going to be a different show, so if you have watched Broadchurch, I think that you should watch Gracepoint. I still cried at the same parts of the first episode that I cried at in the first episode of Broadchurch. I also am a very emotional person. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on Gracepoint. Hope you watch the show. It's going to be on Fox, I think, coming in the fall. And if you haven't already watched Broadchurch, you should find a way to get a hold of it and watch it because it is amazing. All right, if you want more videos like this, then you should subscribe to me right there. This is hard with the webcam. Yeah, be like in that area here-ish. Nope, not that far. Up there. Subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter. You can comment down that way about, I don't know, whatever. All right, thanks. I'll see you next time.